Folks, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and yes, we are back in Total War Rome 2, this time with the Iceni, taking on the Lusitani. And this should be a fun one. These are two interesting factions that each definitely have their own flavor. The Iceni, of course, have some solid heavy swords, but there's a little more to them than that. They're pretty decent at skirmishing, and they've got chariots and other things that can make them unique. So let's take a look at their army. There are 3 units of them out front. The second line here is going to be Sword Band, which is a little bit lighter than you see at some points with the Iceni, but remember that the Lusitani are a low armor faction in general. So there are 5 sword bands across the middle. There's a Druidic Noble here, and the purpose of the Druidic Noble unit is to encourage others. And so they have this chant ability, which is going to increase morale, and then I believe, yeah, they have the encourage trait as well. So it's an interesting support unit to be bringing close to these cheaper units. And then in the back lines, let's take a look. We've got Heroic Nobles, Sword Band, Chosen Sword Band, and another Heroic Noble. So 3 Chosen Sword Band and 2 Heroic Nobles. Very heavy infantry, very powerful. And then on the flanks, let's take a look here. We've got a Levy Freeman protecting a Briton Scout Rider. And then over here, a Levy Freeman protecting a Heroic Rider General. And then there are 2 ambushers hidden on the far right-hand flank of the map. So an interesting army for the Iceni. Now let's come and check out the Lusitani. The Lusitani are kind of a missile storm, cool Iberian faction. Let's take a look here. They're going to have Balearic slingers across the front. It looks like all 4 of them, so brutally powerful skirmishing. It's backed up by a couple of Iberian swords to protect those units with javelins. And then behind that, we've got some veteran shield warriors, which are going to be very capable warriors. High attack, low armor, but very high damage that they're capable of. And the back line is a mixture of Lusitani Noble and veteran shield warrior. The nobles are going to have this more rectangular banner, and then the shield warriors are going to have this one that has a chevron shape at the end of it. And as far as cavalry goes, we're going to have an Iberian cavalry supporting a Scutari cavalry on either flank. So, man, this is an interesting one. In terms of just sheer sword power here, I mean, well, the Britons probably have, I don't know, 3 Lusitani nobles. It's close. So the Britons also have the Chosen Sword Bands, which are pretty solid, but even those are going to have a tough fight against the veteran shield warrior. So I would say it's fairly close in terms of sword power. Armor would go to the Iceni. Hitting power or damage would go to the Lusitani. Skirmish would go to the Lusitani. And cavalry-wise, I mean, numbers, it looks good for the Iberians, though the Heroic Rider is a high-quality unit. These ambushers could be the difference here, depending on what happens, and then we'll also have to see whether or not these Druidic Nobles can keep these cheaper sword bands in the fight for longer than they would otherwise stay, because if that's the case, let's say that the Druidic Nobles can inspire that, and you get, you know, more value out of these cheaper units than you normally would, then we could see the Iceni turn out quite well. I mean, overall, the sword power, I say, has to be in favor of the Iceni just because of sheer numbers, because obviously there's a tremendous spend here for the Lusitani put up in their Balearic slingers, and I like how they're protecting them. They're keeping them safe. They got their volleys. They're going to fall back and try and keep them in a safer position. The ambushers are moving forward. I don't know if they're... It looks like one was still hidden momentarily, but they're becoming visible here. Nice jump here. The Iberian cavalry going to get caught. Scutari cavalry was busy delivering a charge into those sword bands, and a nice charge it was. It's not good for the nobles to have to be fighting this front line. Ideally, you don't want your elite units having to take any heat off of this front line if you want to have the best outcome here. The Druidic nobles, I can't tell if they're doing the chanting thing right now. Yeah, it looks like a chant is impacting. It looks like this unit and at least this one over here as well. So 2 units being impacted by chant, now 3, because here comes the Chosen Sword Band. So, and honestly, that's an Iberian sword, so not a super impressive performance. The veteran shield warriors are pretty well beating the sword band, but they are getting a good fight in because of that chant ability. Ooh, the Scutari cavalry is going to get caught here by the Levy Freeman. I don't think either one of those units had a charge order, so it ended up being kind of a wet noodle charge there. The Heroic Rider is going to work its way around, and look at this, the ambushers. They're going to get in here. They're spread super wide. I don't know how he managed that. Yeah, that ambusher managed to get a really good charge, and then this one's going to get the general busy. It's going to get crushed by that Lusitani Noble, but the fact that these Heroic Nobles over here are getting nice, clean engagements is going to be big. This Lusitani Noble's taking a little bit of damage. Ooh, it's going to be overmatched, though. The Balearic Slingers are still alive. I see them still winging their ammunition into different spots of the battlefield. Some of it's going into infantry, others going into the Briton Slingers. They're going to need to stay alive. This one over here, though, got caught by a sword band, so that is really unfortunate for the Lusitani player. They can't be letting that happen. And it looks like that there is some cavalry kind of running amok in the backfield here. Those heroic riders are going to be pretty dangerous at this point. So the Lusitani are in a bit of a pickle. Their skirmishers are paying off some, but some of them are now getting caught in melee. And then you have cavalry that's going to be free to pressure the rear. The ambushers got a nice attack, but they couldn't really do a whole lot of damage. But they did at least keep some of that army busy. And these Druidic nobles continue to do the encourage and support, and we've seen really solid morale for the Iceni up the middle, and that is going to be problematic for the Lusitani, who kind of rely on their high damage a lot of times to get a quick rout. And the management of the Slingers here wasn't exactly timely, and so those Balearic Slingers are going to take some damage. They need to back out of that, but they also have to deal with this Heroic Rider coming soon. With that Heroic Rider back there, ideally what could have happened is those Slingers would have started to slowly reposition in this direction, and then, you know, tried to put some damage into the Heroic Rider, and then you use one of these sword units to help guard them. Those Slingers need to be alive if the Lusitani want to have a good chance at the end of this. And right now, this unit is all the way up close to that fight because it's attempting to hit the Briton Slinger at this point. The Briton Slinger is just delivering shots into the veteran shield warrior, I believe. Nice rear charge here by the Heroic Rider. That's going to really hurt that Heroic Noble. And then, the Lusitani Noble, and the Heroic Noble is firing off Headhunt there at the same time, so it's going to do extra damage. This veteran shield warrior should be able to shut down that Levy Freeman. Javelins are going to hurt, though. So the Lusitani are running low on numbers. They definitely did a lot of damage, but I mean, it is hurting. This Scutari cavalry, though, getting some good work done here after these Briton Slingers. It needs to go after this one here. It finished its attack and it's kind of sitting there. It's just not even reforming. And then look, the Briton Slingers are reforming, though. There it goes. Looks like it... Oh, no, it's just reforming, and it didn't actually get an attack order. It's going to get cut down here if it doesn't hurry. There it goes. It's going to pull out of that fight and go over here to try and save its own Balearic Slingers. The Lusitani infantry at this point, though, is pretty much finished. The Lusitani Noble General is in pretty good shape, but he's about to get overmatched. With this cavalry running around, those Druidic Nobles are trying to finish off a Balearic Slinger. They have done a tremendously good job at this battle of inspiring nearby units. Nice charge there. Try and keep that Chosen Sword Band away from the infantry, but that's also going to deplete the Scutari Cav or destroy it altogether. I still see 2 Briton Slingers, only the 1 Balearic Slinger here, so that big investment for the Iberians just, I don't think, fully paid out. They would have needed to do a lot more damage to the General. That would have been a really good unit to focus some Slinger fire on at different points. And then also the Heroic Nobles would have been an excellent target for the Slingers. That could have potentially softened them up to the point where the Lusitani infantry were able to succeed. At this point, though, the Lusitani Nobles are going to get left on an island to fend for themselves without the rest of their army. It's unlikely that their morale can take much more of this. Despite a pretty epic performance there, as you can see, they are nearing 200 kills, despite fighting very much overmatched right there. Lusitani Nobles are quite tough. They got battle rhythm there too. You can see their attack jumping all the way up to 69. So a good performance for the Lusitani, but not enough to pull things over the top. Those skirmishers just didn't quite get all the value they needed, and that was a heavy investment for the Lusitani. And in this case, the swords prevailed for the Iceni, and a really interesting use of the Druidic Nobles there by I think it's Hotel Soap that submitted this one, playing as Connie. So it really was a nice use of a support unit that you don't see too often. It helped these other units get more value, and in the right situation, that can be quite good. So again, Balearic Slingers, I think in this case, their targets have got to be the high value units, the Chosen Sword Band, the Heroic Riders. They've got, you've got to pick those units up and get some damage done on them so that they can pay their value back late into a battle, and those key units won't be alive. But ultimately, great game between both players. Appreciate both of them for this. I eat jeans for lunch. Nice. Anyway, I love the Lusitani and the Iceni. 2 cool factions. Hope you all enjoyed this one. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I'll see you soon with some more action in Total War Rome 2.